you can now transition from display none to another format. Today I want to show you how it works with a simple dialog element. We'll even play with some fun animation styles as well. You ready? Let's go. Hey, what's up? My name is Chris and welcome to Coding in Public. All right, I've got the dialog and the button, and when I click on the button, this is a native browser API now. You'll see it opens the dialog with just these simple little commands and command 4 pointing to the ID. Now, I've already done a video before on how this whole thing works, so I'm not going to rehearse that. I just want to pay attention to the different states it's in. Now, if I come over here, we select the dialog and I scroll down, you're going to see somewhere in here that the dialog should say display none. So it's got display none. When I open it, it changes to display of block. And as you may know, you cannot transition between the two elements typically within CSS. However, now you can move from display block to display none and back and forth and actually get transition states going both ways that are each independently controlled. That's all done using progressive enhancements that may not work for older browsers, but they get this experience, which is totally fine. Now, of course, because it's a dialog built into the browser, you also get great accessibility, keyboard shortcuts, and all of that. But if their browser supports these new APIs I'll show you here, you'll actually be able to transition however you want to. So let's start with that. Let's say I start, first of all, with saying I want to go to opacity 0, and then open it and go to opacity of 1. Now, you're going to throw a transition on here and opacity that works like that, but you'll notice nothing changes. And that's because we need one more thing, which is a transition behavior. And we're going to change this to allow-discrete. Now, allow-discrete allows you to transition between elements. But again, it doesn't actually do this here. And that's because we have to make sure everything that needs to be transitioned is in here. So we're going to have a few extra things. First of all, we'll have the display. This is what you'd expect, display none to display block. But there's one other thing. In fact, if I come over here and click, you'll notice that we've now got overlay auto imported. So I also need to transition the overlay as well. Now this mostly fixes everything, and we can actually see this in slow mode. If I come in here and I close, you'll see this transitions, but when I open, it's still very fast. That's because this works from the open state transitioning back to this state over here. So there's one extra thing we need to add. This one line here was kind of the special one. We need to add one more, which is after everything else that will be in this open block. So I'm going to come in here and use the new starting style here, starting style. And all I want to do is set it to opacity of 0. Now what I'm doing is saying, hey, I want to start at nothing and transition slowly to whatever I happen to have right here. And so with this and the starting style block, you'll see that I can transition both ways. And it can be done independently actually as well. So just so we can do this really clearly, let's look at the animation pane here, and I'm going to change this to 25% so we can see it happen really slowly, and we can transition between the two states separately. So first thing I'm going to do is let's translate here. So I'm going to translate, and we're going to go from 0 to 10 pixels. And then let's do the same thing when it's starting. So the starting style will be that way. And of course, we're going to transition to 0 and 0 like that. Now I need to add one more transition so we can actually translate here as well. And that will be the same. So now you'll see it comes up. When I close it, it can go down. Now this is happening because I can control these separately. So for instance, I could do like 110 this way, and it'll move all the way a little bit more down when it's done. Now, that doesn't look good, but you can control these separately. I can move it one way and then the other way if I want to as well. And then I close it and it goes off the top. So anything you want is in your control now because you can control both ways. Now, if you're paying attention here, you'll notice that the background here, the backdrop, just immediately comes in and immediately goes off. So it doesn't really look natural. Once you slow it down, you can kind of see that. So right now we're transitioning from nothing transparent to a color. Now you might think, well, we can just do the same thing. And if you did, you'd be right. So let's copy some of this same stuff down. I'm going to grab this right here. We're going to set this in the backdrop, and then I'm going to transition here the background color, and then all the rest of this as well. Display, I guess we don't need translate, but all that should be the same as well. Now with allow-discrete on and all these on as well, you'll notice that when I fade off, it'll slowly fade off, but we still have the other problem. So we need to do the same kind of thing right down here. So starting style as well here. Let's take this background color and just move it like this. All right, so just like that. Now we've got it both directions. If I open it, it slowly fades in. If I close it, it slowly fades out. And I can go back to 100%, where now it should just go very quickly, and you can see how natural that looks at this point now that we've kind of removed that slowing down. So this little help right here, allow-discrete, and the starting style block works perfectly. Now again, if they don't have this supported in the browser, they'll just get the native default experience, which is fine. This is a progressive enhancement. Now, one quick thing to know, I mentioned this already, but starting style has to come after any other declarations just because of the way that the cascade works, right? If you put this beforehand, then this is going to overwrite it. So starting style kind of always goes at the end of whatever block you happen to be at, and that way it knows where to start as kind of the last thing that it reads, and then it can go back to this state whenever it needs to. Now, whether you're hand-rolling your own CSS or reviewing stuff an agent or a teammate is writing, you still have to know how these fundamental things work, and I hope this was a help in understanding how all of this behaves. I'll catch you in the next one. Happy coding.